two best-looking guys in the country at the time. No, absolutely not.
If you remember, this is where I actually have a prop. Love City Groove actually had the rainbow-coloured CD out, so this was it. And I gather this is down to you, Beans, is it?
That's right.
How did Love City Groove and Love City Groove come about? Because let's face it, obviously you guys must have been on something not to be able to think of a different name with the band.
It's smart, wasn't it? It was really clever, wasn't it? I think it was just, we were just in the studio composing the Love City Groove track, and it was a sunny day. Sun was beaming through the studio windows, like a biblical sky coming through. The groove was pumping out, and then you said, God, it's like love in the city, and the groove is good, and it's as simple as that, I'm afraid, yeah.
My version is that...
No, the truth.
It was a sunny day, but I do remember we wanted to get the song wrapped up as quickly as possible because I wanted to get down the pub.
10 minutes. Yeah. I believe actually, because it's a sort of lovely tune and then it's got a rap in it, and I believe that the rap was actually taken from somewhere else, is that right?
Yeah, I'd actually recorded both the rap parts for another song called Sentence of Love at my publisher Warner Chappell, and the song wasn't quite right, the chorus wasn't right, and I just had this beat of these chords, and I phoned him up. I played you down the phone, didn't I?
Yeah, I'd already worked with Beans sort of for a couple of years, and I get this call from him, and he says, "Listen, I've got this really great track." And he played it to me down the phone. That's what we used to do in them days. You'd literally, blast it down the phone. And I remember 2 chords, and there was, the nice rap that we sort of know today. And then there was this big hole when it gets to my part. And I said, well, it's not finished. And he said, well, that's where you come in. And he said, could you come down and do some vocals? And that was it.
So you've put this song together, and this is 1995, and Eurovision. We've just seen Michael Ball, Sonia. Sorry, I'm really bad at pressure. Thank you. I'm trying out the spitting image. And Francis Raffel, and suddenly Jonathan King, whatever happened to him, is.
Don't talk about Mystic.
So I mean, surely rap and all that, it's got nothing to do with Eurovision. So how did you get involved?
Well, the band wasn't put together. It wasn't put together for Eurovision. The track was being recorded as the first single from the album, anyway. And somehow he got hold of it, and he played it in the catacombs of the BBC. And he phoned us up and said, "I'd love to have a chance at entering this for Song for Europe." And we said.
It had 2 letters. It was no initially. It was my thought at the time that we possibly didn't need to do the show because the song was, being plugged by, I think, Melody Maker. We were tipping it as being a big summer hit. So I was kind of thinking, well, should we just take a gamble and not do the show? But, Jonathan King probably still is a very persuasive character. So I remember him phoning me. I'm not saying anything, but I remember him phoning me, about 8 o'clock in the evening. And I'm going to leave the jokes to these 2 over here. But he tried very hard to persuade me to do the show, and then he mentioned that we'd be debuted on Top of the Pops. Well, that changed everything because he explained it was going to be a new modern version of the show, and it wasn't going to be like the shows that had gone before, and we would be a part of it, part of his sort of persuasive manner. And he said, "You'll debut the song on Top of the Pops." And that did it for me. I thought, that's in the days when Top of the Pops mattered, and that was the biggest programme you could appear on musically at the time.
So basically, it was nakedly to get some exposure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll avoid any puns still.
And then the votes came in, and you won.
That was a surprise. I mean, what was it, 140 or 1,000 votes, way above the song in second place. I think it was the highest recorded ever phone voting result in history.
You must have had big telephone bills.
Someone has it. My friends and family.
And so suddenly you find that you're going to have to do Eurovision, and presumably this comes as a total shock. did you even have a rapper or anything like that to actually go over there with? Or?
Yeah, because as I said before, the song was already completed and finished with the rappers in place and Paul, and before it was chosen, so we just got the band over there.
I heard a rumour that the original rapper was somebody else.
Oh, Tatiana, yeah, the very early demo was the original rapper, so she was replaced before any of the competition by Yinka, yeah.
And so what was it like over in Ireland? Because obviously we've heard that the girls, when they went over to The Hague, it was just snogging Terry Wogan, snogging Johnny Logan. There was no rehearsing going.
That's exactly what it was like,
I met Johnny Logan, but I did avoid the temptation there, you know. I have got a Johnny Logan story, but it would incriminate Johnny far too much. So.
Do we want to hear the Johnny Logan?
I think it might involve you.
Who here has slept with Johnny Logan?
Let's eliminate that once and for all, yeah.
Various of the Irish people are just sitting on their hands at the moment. Go on, man.
Right, well, I'm going to do the nutshell version of the story and to slash a long story to ribbons. I came out of the studio holding a demo and met this girl at the station, and we just got chatting. And I mentioned the Eurovision Song Contest to her, and she said, "You're kidding." She went a very rare shade of pale. And I said, "Yeah." She said, "I'm Johnny Logan's girlfriend. Except I haven't seen him for 3 months. He's suicidal and he's not having a lot of luck. And do you think you'll get to see him when you're over there?" And I said, "You know what, I think we are going because he's scheduled to come to one of the parties."
Right.
So I strolled up to Johnny during one of the parties, and I say to him, "Your girlfriend has asked me to say hello to you." Well, I immediately got whisked aside by 3 really large... I mean, he's a tall bloke, isn't he? These security guards were taller than Johnny. Pulled me to one side, gave me a good talking to, and told me that the lady standing next to him was his wife. That's my Johnny Logan story. I'm glad this hasn't been televised.
there's a camera there. We'll have to edit that one out.
I'm just looking around to make sure his wife's not here.
Anyway, I mean, Eurovision, you were the first sort of modern rap entry submitted by the UK, or indeed anyone. And I mean, obviously you didn't win, but did you feel that the performance and the result was sort of reflected where it should be, or?
I think it was tricky because, as you know, as you mentioned, it was a live orchestra. I think it changed 96. Did it change when you could then use playback? I'm not sure, but Gina G, that definitely was playback. But we had the Dublin BBC equivalent RTE orchestra, and obviously, you know, I produced the track, you know, using Acme MPCs and Acme S3000s and all sequences and stuff. And it was very, very difficult for them to reproduce that live, and I think the track suffered quite considerably for that.
You know the group, who were the, sorry, you'll not all know, who were the guys that didn't do well, or a duo from Liverpool?
Gemini.
Now, they came in on the wrong note. Do you remember they came in on the... No, it was more than a 70, I think it was about 2 tones out, but that was because, it's not because they're not good singers, they had a track playing, and the only intro they had was a bass going doom, 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 doom. And it's difficult to picture notes to a bass line. Now, we had an orchestra going, if there's a place, so you go, blah, you know what I mean? So you can pitch your notes. And I felt for those guys because they just misheard or didn't have the monitor around the right way. And whoever writes a Eurovision entry should always make sure the intro is very clear and the notes are clear. I'm being nice about Gemini.
Well, I mean, that completely reflects what happened to me on the day, because our cue to start the song was a triangle, and I literally bring the whole thing in. So if I miss that cue, the orchestra comes in before me, the whole thing's a mess. And I say to the, you know, you get a rehearsal, you get several rehearsals beforehand, and I say to all the tech crew, make sure this is a long shot, because I'm going to be listening for a triangle, and I don't want people to see my expression. I couldn't hear the triangle on the actual day, so when you watch the playback of that particular show, you know, the Eurovision from '95, you will see the biggest close-up in TV history. Thanks, guys. And you'll see the face of fear. I mean, it really... Yes, yeah.
So anyway, I mean, I think we've got to ask ourselves, obviously, Love City Groove, you had a brief follow-up, but the radio didn't really support you on that. And now you're back together. Why?
Time. Time, gentlemen, please. No, it was just right, because I've gone off and done various different musical projects over the years, so had Paul, and my publisher had often said, why don't you stick, it was a great hit, it was bizarrely very, very big in Japan, if you've ever seen Spinal Tap, but Love City Groove were huge in Japan, and we went out there many times, and we had 2 albums out there, bizarrely. I suppose it was 16 years had transpired. I just thought, well, why not? Earlier this year, why not stick it out again? I haven't spoken to Paul for 16 years. I didn't know if he's still alive. Tracked you down on Facebook. A bit like the Blues Brothers, I said it's time to put the band back together again. And here we are, with a new version coming out. We've replaced the slightly dated rappers with a young, fiery rapper from New York called Moxie. And it's just coming out now.
And is it available at all?
Oh, it is. Here's one I prepared earlier. You'd be pleased to hear.
They're out now. oh! I was going to say.
Signing albums.
Shall we, Kate? Yes. I mean, let's talk about this album just for a second.
Well, I've gone back to my singing because I did Splitting Image and I did voiceovers and acting for many years, and I still do lots of that, but I got divorced, and very happily divorced, if you know what I mean. I'm good friends with my ex, and if something happens to you when you get divorced, you go, I've got to do what I love doing, and that's singing and songwriting. And as much as I love, so my show, if you come and see me, I'm going on tour next year, I do impressions and I do my own music. So nobody else does a mixture of those two things. Now, obviously on the album, I'm not doing Cilla Black.
All right. Okay.
Because I do, in my act, I do Cilla Black singing Ave Maria, but it's... No, it's like this. It's Ave Maria. Ave Maria. No, it's a bit sacrilegious, Jane. No, and the good Catholics here, so they are. And, no, but the album is called Soho Nights, and it's very jazzy. It got to number 8 in the Amazon Jazz charts the first week it was released. So I wrote the songs.
It's true. It's written on the back.
I recorded it at Abbey Road Studios, and I got our cousin Paul McCartney to get me his mates' rates at Abbey Road because he's got incredibly low rates of recording there. And I said, I'm Paul McCartney's cousin, and I want you to know about Paul McCartney. He didn't get where he is today, going around bragging, being about our cousin. He got there from his own talent.
So, Jane, I mean, obviously you were saying that you didn't want to do singing afterwards. So what is it that you're doing? Because I believe you...
Well, I always wanted to be an artist, and I did art at school, and then I went to art school, and after I'd escaped from Eurovision, they let me go to art school, and that was what I always ever wanted to do. And I'm a trained what they call figurative portrait sculptor. So I do portraits of people, and
You've got a sculpture going into Abbey Road.
Yes.
yes, and I've just, it's actually at the Foundry at the moment. I've just done a portrait of George Martin to go into Abbey Road Studios.
The famous producer of all the Beatles songs.
Yes.
And how did you get on with him?
He's a lovely man. Profoundly deaf, actually, stone deaf. And I went down to his VV posh house in Wiltshire. And
They said to you when you arrived.
oh no, she said his wife is lovely, Judy, and she's frightfully posh. And I drove up. I mean, thank God, I've got quite a big posh car myself. Like, you know what I mean? So I went. No, I didn't go dolled up actually. I thought, no, I'll go looking like an artist. I didn't go full slap. And I pulled up in the Range Rover. I thought, no, I'll take the Range Rover. I'll show him I've got a few bob. I'm married to a surgeon, that helps. And so I went in the Range Rover and I thought, this will go down well. I pulled up on the gravel drive and George Martin comes out. He's a real gent, absolute gent. And his wife Judy came out and she said, hello. And I said, hello. I almost curtsied. And I said, hello. And I'd met George Martin before at many family do's. And of course, I was just another Scouse cousin. There's like endless cousins that we've got. There's about 100 of us.